Give me Cathy.
Thank you very much. I'll just turn this around. Right, okay. Well, as Jason said, I'm an independent advisor now. I love my job, and the main reason for that is because I know I can make a difference to people. So there's some examples of that coming later on. Last time, when I went through my 4 minutes, we went through kind of what we call the life stages. So if anyone can remember, this phase here is called grow and build. So the kind of things that happen in there is when you're kind of getting a career, getting a house, family, working and all the rest of it. Building up to retirement when you kind of stop building and growing and you're hopefully going to be enjoying yourselves. The final stage is preserving anything that's left for future generations, if anyone's too worried about that. So, when you're in this phase, you're kind of building, growing, and all the rest of it. But what I want you to think about is your goal, your aim. So, as Jason said, one of my ones was to travel around in a camper van. But practically I've got to think about how I'm going to afford to do that, because obviously you've got to pay all your other bills and things. So this is just one of my wonderful illustrations as well. Can anyone give me an idea what I'm meant to be illustrating there?
There's another one.
You'd like to train as an artist?
Yes. I know. Definitely. Basically, the top one is illustrating that if somebody's really planned for something and they want the holidays and the car, that's meant to be...
That's an alligator.
Yeah, we do wacky races. Cruise, designer clothes, the way you shop and all the rest of it. If you haven't done that, this is probably what would happen. You haven't got a car, you're catching the bus, having sausage and beans instead of steak and chips and all the rest of it. So, we might not be able to get you to here, but if we can get you somewhere further towards that, and your particular goal might not even be on there, it could be, travelling to be a missionary and helping others or whatever, but whatever you do, it's going to kind of have a cost to it. So that's where we sort of want to end up, and it's different for everybody. I always think it's important to discuss what your goal is and what your aim is, so then we can try and sort of get towards that. So everything's going along fine, you're working, got jobs, everything's fine, got your family, getting better off and better off. And what we aim to do is exceed your expectations by helping you plan that. But what kind of things do you think could go wrong in this phase?
Illness.
Exactly.
Straight in there.
Redundancy.
That happen. Would that be through faulty
Redundancy, no?
No, it will be through faulty electrics, would it?
Electrocution.
To go somewhere painful.
Right, so Deb, could your dependents survive financially if you died? That's one question.
If they had a will.
Sorry?
If they had a will.
If they had a will. Well,
There's something in
yeah,
it.
it's got to
If
have
there's something
some-
there,
yeah.
yeah.
Second question, if your business is relying on you, what happens if you're ill and you have a serious illness? And I'm sure everybody in the room knows somebody, even if they haven't had it themselves, but the financial effects of a serious illness could put you off work easily for 6 months, maybe a year. You might have to have treatment. Do you really want to be worrying about, how you're going to pay the mortgage and the bills if that happens to you? And I've got a few statistics to hand around. I mean, obviously everybody knows it does happen. And I was in this phase, and I personally was quite happy. At the age of 40, I had everything, cottage in the country, kids, everything. And then I had divorce, illness and redundancy. But fortunately, I did have things in place, so I was able to sort of set up a business and do these things. And that's kind of what I talk to my customers about, really. Before I go off putting all their money away for the future, is to make sure that this is all covered first. It's really, really important. And the analogy we use is if you go to the doctors and you've got a pain in the leg, say, but if he realises that you're going to have a heart attack, then obviously he'll hopefully do something about it.
Great news.
So what I'm trying to say is want to put £10,000 away for 20 years, great, you know, I'll take that business, but if they haven't done this, I will also say, but before we do that, you know, if any of these things happened, are you kind of protected against that first? And it costs very little per month in reality when you think a bottle of wine is, you know, a bottle of wine a week. That could all be the cost of just protecting your family or your health. Same for businesses. If you have what we call a key person thing, where if your business relies on you, and you're not there, then what happens to your business? So you can protect that as well. Or if you're in partnership with somebody and your partner is ill, then you're left, you know, you've got probably a big chunk of money not coming into that business. So that's all kind of things that we sort of help with. I've got some bits to give out, some case studies. The case studies are where I've literally helped people recently. Two that I'm proud of is that I'm saving Paul, the taxi driver, £800 a month on what he was paying out on stuff before. So that's obviously sorry, is that 4 minutes left? Not a bit longer then. Paul, the taxi driver, he wasn't a hugely well-off person, but you know, he's in a stage of his life like me, in his 50s, hasn't got any kids. Yeah.
He looks a lot younger.
Right, so Paul the taxi driver, £800 a month. Now, my fees, obviously everyone's got to pay, I've got to pay my mortgage, so I charge for my services. But £800, he's probably actually got that back within the first month. So for a very short-term pain, there's a very long and considerable gain for him. I've got a young couple saving £258 on the mortgage, 3 young boys at a private school. Their ambition and their goal is to keep the kids in that school. It's getting tough. Remortgage, £258 better off. No charges for doing the remortgage. So that's another example. The retired lady that I just said about in my 60 seconds, where I've helped her to achieve £3,000 additional capital just in September, which was partly, you know, a bit of timing, good luck timing, but even so, you know, rather than sat in the bank where it's kind of going backwards in terms of the growth it's getting. Who else have I got? Oh yeah, and another young couple, lovely policemen, both of them in the police force. Had a lovely protection plan on the mortgage, but it was 10 years short of the mortgage term, so it wasn't a suitable protection policy. So I also look at what people have already got in place, and it's amazing how many times that those policies aren't suitable or going to do what the person thinks they do. So when I said about keeping things simple, I pride myself on explaining what, you know, in sort of fairly simple terms that everyone can understand, you know, what the situation is, what you've got, what you need to do, and if you've got, like, does your existing thing match, you know, what you actually need. So that is virtually all I've got to say, apart from asking for your questions. But just before I do that, I've just got a couple of bits to give out on what we've talked about, and I'll do that afterwards. That's about, these are just some brochures about, just to illustrate about life cover, inflation, the effects of inflation, protecting yourself, some statistics, obviously, and this is the one about the key person, which I don't think I've mentioned a lot before, but that just got a pair of lovely socks on it for some reason. there are a few things, so if there's anyone who wants to sort of discuss those bits any further after that. But yeah, what questions do you have?
Should I hand these out? Who's an ideal referral for you?
Who? Well, I think when I went to see the taxi driver, it was like he didn't think I could help him. So, I mean, anybody who hasn't, I think people with really good jobs, like if you're working for, you know, in education or BNHS, you've got fairly good benefits. But everybody else, you know, if you're self-employed, you haven't got any of those benefits. And anyone who's got any children or any debts, like a mortgage, or anybody who wants to invest some money, who receives an inheritance, say, or just wants to get more income in retirement, I mean, I can't really you know, I find it hard to kind of find an ideal customer because I love them all.
Everyone then, obviously.
Yeah.
What was Paul doing exactly to just overspend his money?
What he had one of these mortgages which was interest only with the Halifax, and somebody had set up various kind of endowment plans for him, but over the years they just kept asking him to pay more and more into it and top it up. What he didn't realise that about 3 years ago he had enough in those plans to pay off the mortgage, but he didn't know because he hadn't seen an advisor for that long. So we surrendered all the policies, paid his mortgage off. He ended up with about £2,000 spare, and his life is just, you know, so much better.